pleased to have the opportunity to add to this debate this afternoon. The argument for devolution of policing and justice rests on the recommendation of the Thomas Commission, as we've heard many times already this afternoon, and the Independent Commission on the Constitutional Future. But the reports have significant weaknesses, which I will outline, and they do not provide a compelling argument for devolving policing and justice. There are very few practical benefits to devolving policing and justice, and the main thrust of the argument, which is made by the Thomas Commission, rests on constitutional symmetry. This is an argument based on symbolic alignment. It does not prioritise stability or the best quality policing and justice for the people of Wales. And finally, it does not prioritise, I should say, cost effectiveness with devolved policing. I'll finish this sentence and then I'll give way. But you are coming up on my, so I don't know if you want to still make the intervention. And courts predicted to cost the Welsh taxpayer far more per head. And I do recall the member for South Wales Central arguing the other week that the Baron Thomas of Cwmgïedd is a respected judge and peer and not some foaming at the mouth nationalist, and I completely agree. But there were several important factors that were not... Of course I will.
Sure, everyone pleased to hear your analysis of the report, Gareth. Now, of course, the commissioners of the report included the former Lord Chief Justice, the head of prisons and probation in Northern Ireland, a global partner of the largest legal firm in London, and many others. Not your typical members of commission in Wales. So how are you more of an expert than they are?
I will be covering that during my contribution in some regard, but not to the detail that you've highlighted. I'm more highlighting the sort of theory behind the arguments against the devolution of policing, but thoroughly by the Commission with the report outlining the very few practical benefits to devolving police and justice. I'm not prepared to see the Welsh taxpayer fork out considerably more money for poorer policing just for symbolic constitutional symmetry in order to keep the separatists happy. Separatists who just want to see further creepings towards independence. I will prioritise what is sensible and pragmatic over ideology, and the Welsh nationalists are guided entirely by ideology. There is ample evidence outlining why devolving policing and justice is not a good idea. Of course I will, of course.
As my colleague Claire Griffith did, do you believe that Manchester or London are on the way to independence because of the devolution of policing in their respective cities?
That's a flawed argument because it's a completely different model of devolution. I'd expect better. I'd expect a better standard of argument from a leader of a party. But in all honesty, on the financial impact, Wales currently benefits from the economies of scale and the integrated system with England, and devolution risks diverting funds from frontline services to bureaucratic restructuring to establish devolved policing and justice. We should also remember that Scotland and Northern Ireland have a long precedent of having their own courts and law enforcement. Scotland has had its own legal system since before the Act of the Union in 1707, and Northern Ireland since 1921 with their own autonomous Royal Ulster Constabulary. But discounting medieval Welsh law, there is no precedent for this in Wales. Justice and policing have always been integrated with England, so this means devolving policing and justice would be novel. We would lose the economy of scale and the fiscal fragmentation of disintegrating. I mean, you wouldn't feel the need to heckle so much if you knew what I was saying was, was truly unfactual. It's a classic defence mechanism, isn't it? When you're being told something to the contrary of what of what you believe is. We would lose economy of scale, and the fiscal fragmentation of disintegrating policing and justice would lead to higher per capita costs for the Welsh people. The UK government's 2018 estimate was that the initial setup cost associated with devolving justice would amount to £101.5 million. Expect this to be much higher today. Welsh taxpayers would be expected to share the burden of an extra £37.5 million per year. Again, this figure would be much higher today, and that doesn't even include the additional costs that others for other things like legal aid. An integrated justice system also allows us to benefit from a larger pool of expertise, resources and international prestige. The Chief Constable of North Wales Police, Amanda Blakeman, which the Leader of Plaid Cymru might be interested to hear, given she covers his constituency, recently said that North Wales is very much connected from a criminality perspective to the neighbouring forces of Merseyside through to Cheshire, commenting that crime is more east to west than what it would be from north to south. If the Llywydd will allow me to.
It's your call, Gareth.
I know I'm in the red. So
yeah, no, but you have an additional minute for interventions. Okay. You're within that minute, just about.
Yeah, on 2 points. One, a devolved Welsh police system would presumably still want to cooperate across borders, as my colleague Adam Price made the case. Is that not true? And secondly, is the member making the case for a cross-border police force that ignores the Welsh border entirely?
I'm not making any claims to that regard. I think you're trying to put words in my mouth, really. And I would advise you to perhaps have a briefing on county lines to see how that actually operates and some of the intricacies of that. It's quite interesting, actually. A significant portion of crime in Wales, particularly in regions like North Wales, is inherently cross-border, with estimates indicating that 95% of crime in North Wales is cross-border with England and little all Wales crime. As my colleague Mark Isherwood has raised before, cross-border criminality is mentioned in the Thomas report only once. As much as I wish we were, we are not living in the era of Dixon of Dock Green, and county lines and other organised gangs. Terrorist organisations do not just simply stop at Offa's Dyke. Devolved boundaries, which criminals don't care about, create silos, increasing response times and costs. Retaining centralised control ensures seamless integration and allows police forces to share data to keep us all safe. Again, the timing for the push for this is ill-thought. Labour have proven themselves unable to govern Wales with the powers it already has, and there are significant issues with policing across the UK as it stands, whether it's two-tier justice or wasting time on policing Facebook posts while burglaries are ignored. I dread to think of the nightmarish dystopian policing we'd end up with should it ever be run by Welsh Labour and Plaid Cymru, and we think we all know that would be worse. I'm not saying that policing and justice...
I have been extremely generous by now.
Oh, thank you very much. It's on no practical benefit for the people of Wales whatsoever, and let's not add policing and justice to this ever-growing list of Welsh Government failures that we've had to endure for the last 27 years. Thank you very much.
Mabon ap Gwynfor.
Thank you, Llywydd. We've already heard about the imbalance that exists between the ability or the responsibilities of the Welsh Government in some areas